is Celeste, and if you are watching my podcast for the very first time, I just want to give you a warm welcome, invite you to introduce yourself in the comments below or in the Ravelry group, which you can find in the doobly-doo. You can also find show notes in the Ravelry group, as well as finding all kinds of detailed information on any of the projects I'm working on my Ravelry page. I am Celeste Foal on Ravelry and Instagram, and I would love to keep in contact with you there, so please do add me. If you are a returning watcher, viewer, I would like to say thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate all of you. It's been awesome to see the audience kind of slowly growing, and I really appreciate all of you guys so much. And I want to give a special shout out to the podcast 10,000 Stitches, which shouted me out this week and helped drive a lot of you guys over here. So thank you so much for that. That means a whole lot to me, and I really appreciate it. Make sure that you hit the thumbs up button if you do like this podcast, because it helps other people find me and it helps me out a lot. And subscribe if you haven't yet so that you can see more from me. So now that the housekeeping is out of the way, let's jump in. I have a finished object for you this week that I'm very excited about. And that is my second lovely wildflowers and honeycomb sock. So this is the first one that you've already seen. Here's the second. And this progress keeper here is marking where I was when I showed you last week. So I had got a bunch of work done on it while watching the speeches and everything before the Women's March. I talked about that. And then I got all of this work done. My husband and I went to a cabin in Adams County in Amish country near where we live in Cincinnati, and had a really great little anniversary getaway for 3 days. And I did the heel and the gusset while we were there, and then I did the foot and the toe in the car on the way back home. And I also got some knitting on another project done there, so it was really lots of good knitting time, and still time for eating good food and reading and spending lots of quality time with my husband. So that was just a wonderful little getaway. So this project keeper is, if you can see, it's a really cute little enamel fawn. It's even got a little red nose like Rudolph or something, which I think goes really well with this yarn because they're the little flecks of red. And it is from a homespun house. I got a couple stitch markers from her in the mail this week that I will show you in Stash Enhancement. So anyway, if you have not seen these socks before, I'll just tell you a little bit about them. They're the Wildflower and Honeycomb socks. I altered the pattern by moving down to 56 stitches instead of 64, which is my preference, but I kept basically everything else the same. The length of the cuff, the 3x1 rib, I decided to try this really fun slip stitch heel, which is the honeycomb part of the pattern. I absolutely loved this. I think it looks so gorgeous, but I also enjoyed knitting it. I thought it was really intuitive and easy to learn, and I can definitely see myself using both the eyelets and the heel together or separately on socks in the future, because I really love the way that both of them turned out. I think that these are probably the most beautiful socks I have ever knit. Which, not that I've knit a ton of socks yet, but I'm just crazy about them. I'm crazy about the yarn, which is from Fiber Revolution. This is her Australis 4-ply sock base in the colorway Pink Punk. And I just think that the yarn and the pattern are a perfect fit. If you have been watching me from the beginning, you know that I started up this pattern in a different yarn that was more speckled, and I decided when I got to about this point to rip back and restart it with the Pink Punk, and I am so glad I did, because honestly it's such a good match. I had in my mind that I wanted like a cream colored yarn with a multicolor speckle, but I still think that would be beautiful. But I just think this yarn wanted to be these socks, and it turned out so gorgeous. So I am really, really happy that I did that. I knit them on my ChowGoo red lace 2.25 millimeters, 32 inch fixed needles, which are my favorite needles for knitting socks, magic loop style, of course. And these sock blockers are from Alex Workshop Design, which you can find on Etsy. I like them a lot. I love the little hearts. I think they're so cute. I will say also, these are, you know, they're a little bit short. I had almost half a skein left over. This is the rest of the yarn, and it's about 47 grams, I think. So not quite enough to do another pair of socks, but really, really respectable amount left over. I'm not sure exactly what I'm gonna do with it, but these socks do not take a lot of yarn, so that's interesting. Okay, so I have lots of whips to talk to you about. As you may know, I have been wanting to start my Ashburn for a really long time. I showed you the yarn that I bought for it back before the holidays, which is Madeline Tosh 80-10-10 fingering. And I did start it this week. I'm very excited. I'm keeping it in my little Ghastlies bag. I like it in this bag because the colors match. So here it is. I started this on Monday, actually, and so I have an auditory podcast that is a spoiler-free rewatch of Gilmore Girls that I've been doing for 2 years, I want to say, with a co-host, and it's called Return to Stars Hollow. It's on iTunes and Stitcher and everything if you're interested at all. I'm not trying to plug it. What I'm trying to say is that one of the things that got me knitting more regularly, so I've been knitting since I was 10, and I've always been a little bit off and on with it, but I've never been as consistent with it as I have been in the last year. And a big reason for that is that at some point I was recording my podcast, and it's an auditory podcast, and so we do it over Skype. So I'm just sitting there with the microphone, and I can't really think about anything else or get any other kind of work done because I'm completely engaged. And one day I really needed to do my nails, and so I brought my stuff in and I did my nails while I was recording the podcast, and I realized, oh my gosh, I could do anything that was just small and involved something physical and not a lot of thought. The first thing that came to mind was that I could knit or do some embroidery or something like that. And you know, when I sat down the next week, I started knitting on a pair of socks, and I think it was socks. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And it's just, since then, I've knit during every single podcast recording, and it's really gotten me into the regular habit of knitting every single day, which has been wonderful. So I knew that Monday, while we recorded the podcast, would be a really good time to start a new project, because it would be a good 2 hours of sitting there, and I knew that if I just looked over the Ashburn, I could get it started because it's really simple. And so I started it. Here is the beginning, which is this little sort of like crescent shape, and it's what it's going to turn into is one big sort of triangle. So it's going to have this section of the color B, and then another section that'll be sort of the point. And the colors, the gray is Boxcar. The one that I'm working on right now is called Minimal Pink Clay Optic. And then the final color I'm going to use is called Scout, and it's just a tonal pink. I love pink and gray together, if you haven't picked up on that. So this has been fun. It's definitely simple to knit. It's gonna sound crazy to say I don't feel like it goes that fast, because I've obviously knit all of this in a week. I guess I'm just, the rows are so long with a shawl, and if you know, when you knit a lot of socks and stuff, like, I think I just need to readjust my brain, because it feels like you knit and you knit and you knit and you knit and you've just done one row. And but at the same time, it does kind of work up into being a scarf before you know it. So this progress keeper is one of the ones I got from a homespun house. This one is actually by Sucra Sucra, and all of the other ones are, there's just I think there's just two more, and they're just silver. I'll show them to you in Stash Enhancement. So one thing about this, these sort of stripes that go through where it almost looks like a ribbon that's been woven in and out, which you do with some slip stitching techniques, that sort of leads into color B, and then it's going to lead out of color B as well. And I will say that when I selected the yarn, I probably could have done a better job of selecting something that would stand out there. The fact that it is speckled makes the lines a little bit irregular. Like, as you can see here, when it gets into some of the black from the speckle, it almost disappears and then it shows up again. So I think that if the middle color had been something that was dark, for example, it would show up better on the gray and then on the pink later. That being said, I don't know that I would like a color combination like that better. I really like these three colors. So when I picked them, I wasn't really thinking that much about how it would show up here. I was just sort of thinking about what three colors I wanted and what three colors looked good together. So I think matching yarn to patterns is something that I'm still learning. I think all of us are probably still learning it to a certain degree. So I try not to be too frustrated when I don't come up with the yarn that shows off the pattern the very best that that pattern could be shown off. You know, I'm not selling patterns, I'm making things for myself that I'm going to love. So it doesn't bother me a ton, because when I think about it, I can't come up with any yarn that I would rather have this in. Possibly it would have been better if I had done the gray as the second color, but even then I don't know that it would be a lot better. So anyway, I've just started section B, and section B is going to be a little bit larger in terms of yarn than the gray, and then the last section, which is the pink, will be about the same amount of yarn as the gray. That gives you any idea of how far along I am. And I'm really excited about it. I can't wait to wear it. My next work in progress is my Miet, which I picked up again. So as you may remember, I started this cardigan as part of Katie of Insight number 23's Andy Sat Along, which is a knit along where you can knit any garment or any sweater, I think, by Andy Satterland, the designer, and she designs mostly sort of cropped, fitted, vintage inspired sweaters. And there was one of them, the Miet cardigan, that was already in my favorites as something that I thought that my friend Kelly would really like. So I decided, since her birthday is in February, I would make it for her and participate in the knit along. I started it like the first weekend in January, somewhere around there. I sat down for one day, I did the whole yoke, and then I decided I really wanted to finish my kodo. So I didn't touch them yet, and I worked on my kodo, which you can see me wearing in my previous episode, if you are so inclined. And then since I had finished the kodo, I decided I was going to pick up the Miet again. Now for some reason, because I did the yoke all in one sitting, I just had this sense that I like knitting on the Miet in big chunks and getting a good amount of it done. So what I did was, after I finished the kodo, I waited until the weekend. So yesterday I picked it up for the first time. So this is the second time I sat down with it, and I got a lot done. Here it is. Before, so it's a raglan top down, and before I had done the entire yoke and stopped right where that progress keeper is, which, by the way, is a very, very cute little s'mores with a cute little face. I love him. He's by Pitter Patter Polymer. And yesterday I picked up from there, knit the rest of the body, and picked up and knit one of the arms. So I'm pretty jazzed about how much I was able to accomplish. That means that all I have left is another sleeve and then the button bands and the neck. So as you can see, this has a lovely little sort of rickrack shaped eyelet trim that goes all the way around the neckline, next to the button bands. It goes around the bottom of the sweater and the sleeves, which is really cute. And then other than that, it's just a very simple negative ease cropped 3/4 length sleeve sweater. It's definitely been a fun and easy knit. Keeping track of the eyelets is the most difficult part. That is where you begin with these. So I would say I wouldn't necessarily recommend this to someone who had absolutely no experience with eyelets or lace at all. I think it's probably not the easiest pattern to learn that on. But if you have any experience with that, this would make a great first sweater. I think a top-down raglan is a really great sweater to knit because you don't have to pick up anything. I mean, I have to pick up for the button bands, but you don't have to pick up stitches. You don't have to sew shoulder seams or inlay sleeves or anything like that. And you can try it on as you go if you're knitting for yourself, which is nice. I'm, of course, knitting as a secret, so I just have to hope that it fits her. I think it looks like it's going to fit her. So I feel pretty confident about that. I'm knitting the smallest size, which is for a 34-inch bust, but she might be a little smaller than that. I feel like that seems like an accurate measurement of her actual bust, but I think her bone structure might be a little smaller than that. But I think it's going to fit well, and I really hope she likes it. I'm knitting it just out of the Knit Picks Dishy in Fiesta Red, which is a cotton worsted. I think cotton is really good for this sweater because it's a kind of layering piece. It's just 3/4 length and it's cropped. So I feel like it's more the kind of thing you would throw on with a dress than something you would want to keep you really, really warm in the wintertime. So that's why I chose the cotton. And it's serving me well. I'm trying to think if I have anything else to say about it. I have been working on my new ChiaoGoo interchangeables. I did size down, so I'm working the body on a US 6, which is a 4mm, and the, wait, is that right? No. I'm knitting the body on a US 7, and I'm knitting the ribbing on a US 6. And that's one size down from what the pattern recommends. I have a bit of a loose gauge, so I tend to just need to size down. Plus, I was a little concerned it might be too big for her, so I think that's definitely the direction to go. And I think it's been working out well for me. And I just have it in this linen bag that some bedding or something came in, like pillowcases or like a duvet or something. Oh. And right now I have my little enamel spike on there because I love him. Okay, so I have 2 more works in progress, and they're both socks. The first one you've seen already. Last week I talked about the 9-inch circulars and my Amortentia socks. So this yarn is from Little Bean Loves, and it's her sparkle sock base in the Amortentia colorway, which is the Harry Potter Love Potion. So these are sort of combo Valentine's Day / Harry Potter knit along / box of socks Cal project. I started last week. I was still in the ribbing, and I was saying I could already feel that I was speeding up a little bit, but you know, I wasn't going to feel what it was really like until I got to the stockinette. I then sat down later that day and knit basically the rest of this up to this progress keeper, I think. I watched Harry Potter 6, which is the movie that features Amortentia, and I had just a grand old time. First of all, I am so in love with this yarn. I don't even know, like, sometimes I will just open up the project bag just to look at it, and then I'll zip it up again because I just want to see the yarn because it's so beautiful. It's like, it is exactly what I want variegated yarn to be, and I don't always love all variegated. I have I think I'm just personally more conservative with color than a lot of people are, which is not at all a judgment on other people's taste. It's just like my personal taste. And sometimes variegated can feel like there's so many colors coming to the party that they're not playing well with each other. And the fact that all of these are in the same sort of family, even though there's huge diversity from the deep, deep purple to the light, light pink all the way into white. And then you've got really bright pinks and you've got really soft lavenders. I mean, there's so much diversity here, but they all look so nice. And I really love the way the color is knitting up in terms of how it's spread. It reminds me of when you see a brick house or something and there's just the variegated sort of color to the different bricks and the way they're laid out. I'm not a big fan of pooling. I really like when it looks more like this. So I am so thrilled with this yarn. It makes me really excited to see how the rest of the Little Bean Loves yarn that I bought will knit up later, which you can see all of that in a stash enhancement in one of my previous videos if you're interested. So yeah, so just like obsessed with the yarn. So now let's talk about the needles. Obviously, I got a lot done in one sitting. For what that's worth. I think that had more to do with the fact that I was in love with the yarn, to be honest. I just wanted to keep knitting it. I don't hate the needles. I am so far definitely not any faster than I am on Magic Loop, and I don't find it to be more comfortable. I can see why some people, even if they weren't faster than Magic Loop, would find this more comfortable because there's no pausing and readjusting your needles. And you can't accidentally pull your needle out, which I think some people struggle with that with Magic Loop. Some people, I think, don't like the way that the cords kind of work. So I can understand why with different preferences this would be more comfortable. For me, it's less comfortable. Just my hands, the way I hold my knitting, maybe the size of my hands, I don't know. I don't struggle with Magic Loop, especially not using my Chalky Red Lace, which are just like a godsend from the cable gods. So I'm not sold. I don't hate it, but I'm not sold. I'm definitely going to knit the entire pair on these because I don't want to screw up my gauge. And I feel that after I've knit an entire pair of vanilla socks, I will be 100% sure whether I like them or not. And if I don't love them, I might just hang on to them in case I feel like knitting on them at some point, but more likely I will try to find a good home for them. So I might talk about that more on the podcast later if I decide to get rid of them. I'm not personally close to anyone who's like a serious enough knitter that they would be into something like this. So I might just give them to one of you if I decide I don't want them. So stay tuned. If you're interested in trying out 9-inch needles and you like higher sharps, I might send them to you later. I don't know. I don't know if that's weird, but I don't want them to go to waste. I feel like we should have some kind of like 9-inch needle exchange. Which, now that I say needle exchange, obviously that's like a different thing. Which is like, that went to a dark place quickly. 9-inch needle library swap situation, because I feel like everyone wants to try them once and then a lot of people don't like them, so there's probably just a ton of 9-inch needles sitting around somewhere waiting for a home. Should get something like that going. Anyway, that's my story on the 9-inch needles. My snitch is a jingle bell, which I think is freaking adorable. It's from Nitty by Nature. I'm gonna start the heels soon. I was thinking I liked the idea of making these longer than my other socks just so that I can experiment with whether I like something longer. I mean, why not? I love the yarn so much that it's not gonna bother me to knit on it a little longer. So I'm not sure exactly where I'm gonna start my heel, but I'm gonna knit a little bit more. And I'm going to do a fish lips kiss heel and probably a rounded toe. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I hope to knit on them more this week, and hopefully I'll have something more to show you. And my final whip is the new pair of socks in my Madewell bag that I started because I finished my Wildflowers and Honeycombs. So right now I am feeling like the whole one patterned, one vanilla sock thing is a nice routine to be in. So I started my new patterned socks, and there's not a lot to show. I mean, there's really not a lot to show. I literally started these like an hour ago, watching some podcasts. So they're really just a tiny mustache, which, by the way, I have no idea who started that, because it's like everyone does it now. But if you started that, sorry, I don't know how to give you credit because I don't know who did it. Yeah, so I hope I'm not violating any intellectual property rights laws by talking about this as a mustache. Anyway, these are love socks, so another Valentine's sock for February. If you're unfamiliar with the pattern, I'll show you it here. Essentially, they're striped socks with an intarsia heart on the heel flap, which, like, adorable, right? I'm going to do them with gray and white stripes and a pink heart, because obviously, I mean, that's my color palette. I really hope this podcast doesn't get boring, because like literally every project is like, oh, she's doing gray and pink and black and white. Wow, I'm super surprised. That's just my jam, y'all. So these are just Knit Pick Stroll, white, dove heather, and dogwood heather. I'm considering doing the pink punk for the heart. I don't know. I'm very torn. Part of me really likes the simplicity of all solids, and then another part of me says, what's your problem? This yarn is so beautiful. Why wouldn't you want to make it out of this yarn? So I'm torn, and I probably won't decide until the last second, to be honest. These are going to be the first time for me to do striped socks that's not self-striping, which I probably could have found some gray and white self-striping out there somewhere, but you know, whatever. Not a big deal. The stripes are only going to be 4 rows, so I honestly don't even think I'm going to wrap my yarn. I think I'm just going to carry it. I don't think 4 rows is too long to carry it. Yeah, I'm not worried about that at all. So I think that's what I'm going to do. That way I don't have to worry about wrapping it. I don't mind wrapping, but sometimes I forget to do it consistently, and that really bothers me when the wraps are like different lengths. So it's one thing when you're doing like stranded knitting and you're sort of engaged the entire time thinking about your wraps because you're following that chart and everything. That's one thing. But with stripes, I just feel like if I tried to wrap them, I would totally forget like half the time. Let's see what else to say. Oh, so it's intarsia. Actually, the top of the heart, where it's just like these, is stranded. And then past there, you get into intarsia. Now, I've only done intarsia once before, and I didn't do it properly. I was in high school, and I knit my friend the like Stitch and Bitch Mud Flap Girl tank. I don't remember which Stitch and Bitch book that was in, and it was very like pulled, and you know, it probably looked like crap. I remember thinking it looked okay enough to still give it to her. But I didn't, you know, I don't think that YouTube, I don't know, YouTube may have existed back then, but it certainly wasn't, it wouldn't have occurred to me to look on YouTube for knitting tutorials. So I basically just didn't know what I was doing at all, and I just kind of guessed. So yeah, so I'm gonna look up a tutorial, and I don't expect it to be anything I can't do, and I'm pretty excited. I think this is going to be the perfect project to learn intarsia on because I'm excited about the final project, which is always good motivation, and it's a pretty small area, and you know, when you do intarsia, so the background of the heel flap is going to be white, and then I'll have the pink heart in it, right? You have to have like 2 whites, one on each side, because you're not carrying it across like in stranded. And so the fact that it's just working on a little heel flap, I think is going to help me with, I don't know, maybe they get more tangled if they're closer together. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but it just seems like it's going to be a simple project to practice and learn intarsia on. So I'm excited. I'm not sure if I should do like inside of the skein, outside of the skein for the 2 sides, or if that's getting like too complicated. They'll probably talk about it in some of the tutorials, so I will look into that, and I will definitely keep you updated on how that learning process goes, and any tips that you might be able to take away from my experience if you are just starting intarsia or thinking about starting it. The Love Socks, I don't think I mentioned, are by Devin Clement, and they're a free Ravelry download as well, so you should definitely look into that if you're interested. So now I want to talk a little bit about On the Horizon. I won't talk too long about the things I've already mentioned. So obviously I have that Harry Potter yarn. I have various shawls and cowls and hats and socks and things that I'm thinking about knitting with it. I don't think I've made any final decisions on any of those, but those will be coming up. I have the Lolo by Jared Flood hat that I want to do out of the leftover Brooklyn Tweed Shelter for, that was from my Kodo. And I also want to do the black sugarcane hat for myself, which I have the yarn for. So those are projects that I probably won't pick up until I finish my Ashburn, or I may just start one of them one day if I'm feeling it. I don't know. And then I've been really getting more serious about the idea of doing the Floam, which is a cardigan by Justina Lorkowska? I don't know. So I think what I'm going to do is go to my local yarns shop that has Quince & Co. and check it out in person and decide if that's what I want to use and what color. Yeah, and I think that I'm gonna, I definitely want to do that when I finish the Miet. I think there will be enough cold left, and even into spring, a cardigan like that is gonna be really useful. So that's gonna be my last sweater of the winter, and then I probably won't do another sweater until Well, I'm thinking about maybe going to, I really don't know how my schedule's going to work out this year, so I have no idea if I can. But I'm thinking about going to Rhinebeck. So a Rhinebeck sweater would probably be the next sweater I would do. But in any case, I probably won't do another sweater after that until getting into the cold weather again. I do have some plans for lighter, summery, like t-shirt type knitted tops. So I can talk about those maybe when I get closer to the point of wanting to do them. But that's going to be my sort of like garment that I have going. So right now I have the Miet, then I'm going to do the foam next, and then after that I'll get into some of those, unless I finish the foam really soon and I have plenty of winter left, in which case I could possibly make another sweater. We'll see how that goes. And then the next things that I'm really excited about, one, you may know that I am a big Tiny Owl Knits fan. I'm working on the Beekeeper's quilt. I absolutely love everything that she does. And recently I became obsessed with one of her patterns, which I had seen before and favorited it before, but recently I just had the urge to make it. And that is Hops a Lot, which is a felted bunny slipper. I really love the way they look in gray with the sweet little pink nose. Obviously pink and gray again. I am so predictable. But I thought about it really hard and I decided if I could find a nice pale pink, then I should do them in a nice pale pink. You just go full pink bunny slipper or go home, right? So I jumped on Knit Picks to find some cheap 100% wool or something else that would felt. And I did find some pale pinks, so that'll be coming in the mail. I'll show you in Stash Enhancement when I get it. I can't remember right now exactly what it was called, but I'll show that to you soon. So yeah, as soon as that comes in the mail, probably I'm going to jump on doing those. They'll be a pretty fast project. Since they're felted, it's going to be on like larger needles and, you know, very simple and not complex in any way. The only thing I've ever felted before were Stephanie's heartfelt rings. Stephanie from Tiny Owl Knits. And those are like, I mean, it's just a little ring. It's like you make it in a second. So I made like a bunch of those as party favors for a knitting night that I had at my house in like October, I want to say. And that was really fun. I had always been kind of intimidated by felting before, but Stephanie really makes you feel like you can do it and it's easy and you can hide all your mistakes and it's fun. So she's got me excited about the Hops a Lot and probably other felting projects in the future. I would ask, if you are a felter, let me know your tips on making sure you don't ruin your washing machine. I think the Hops a Lot are actually going to be hand felted, and so were the rings. But I want to make her Spirit of the Birch scarf for my husband next year, and it requires some felting in the washing machine, so I really don't want to totally screw up my washing machine. I've heard put it in a pillowcase with a zipper. I do have one of those, so I'm planning on doing that. Is there anything else you would recommend? This is terrible, but I'm kind of thinking about going to the laundromat, and not that I would just intentionally try to mess up their machines. I would still put it in the pillowcase and stuff, but it just seems like a little bit of an insurance policy, like just in case it screws it up. They have staff that come in and service their washing machines all the time, whereas for me, if something like that happened, I would have to call someone out to my house. It would be like $75 just for them to look at it, you know. And also they have top loaders and I have a front loader, and so I'm like, I'm not even sure that there's a good way to felt in a front loader at all, so I might have to go to the laundromat no matter what. Anyway, now I feel like I'm just blabbering about this, but my point is that if you know about felting and you have tips, I would love to hear them. I would be super appreciative. You can leave them in the doobly-doo, message me on Ravelry, comment on the show notes page in the Ravelry group. Anything like that would be super appreciated. So after that, the next couple on the horizon things that I'm excited about are both involving my husband. First, I'm going to make him another pair of socks with some Felice yarn, which I'll show you in a second, and stash enhancement. I made those socks for him for Christmas that just were so too big for him. I was still kind of learning how to make socks that were even the right size for me, and I couldn't try them on his feet, and it was just there. He wears them as bed socks and everything, but like I really, really wanted to make him socks that he could wear every day. So I found some Felice because I had so much fun with the Felice for the chicken coop socks, and I felt like they went so fast that I thought I don't have to wait until Christmas or his birthday or some occasion like that. I could have fun with just making these the pair of vanilla socks that I'm working on for a while. So I'm going to do those. And then the other thing coming up with Ryan is that he's interested in learning how to knit, which is like so exciting. I've only been knitting around him for the 8 years that we've been together. And it's really funny because I don't know what it was that clicked in his brain recently. I always just assumed it just would not be his thing. I thought if he was interested, he'd ask me. I don't even remember what brought it up, but at some point, he didn't see another guy in a yarn shop or a guy on a podcast or anything like that. It was just something clicked, and all of a sudden he was like, I just realized that I have had this just like default assumption that I couldn't even ask myself if I was interested in learning how to knit because it was a woman's thing, which is so stupid and against how I feel about everything. You know, like he is not a person who thinks that like gender is anything more than a social construct, and he's not trying to prove his masculinity, and that's just not him at all. And yet somehow there had been this subconscious thing where he hadn't ever considered whether he might even be interested, because that's how deeply our society's beliefs about gender can go and sort of limit you from even questioning whether you're interested in something at all. So he had that realization, and he said, you know, I don't know if I'm gonna like it, but I'm curious about it, and if you want to teach me how, I would love to learn. And I was like, yeah, are you kidding? I would love to teach you how. Oh my God. So we found a pattern for him to learn on, and I ordered some yarn from Knit Picks for it. And it's something that I can finish if he doesn't like it. It's a baby blanket. And I just think it's going to be so fun. I really hope that he likes it. And even if he doesn't, I think it'll still be a fun experience to teach him how. And maybe at some point later down the road, he'll want to pick it up again. Who knows? I don't want to get my hopes up too much that he likes it and it's something that he does regularly. But at the same time, I am pretty excited about it. So, yeah, so there's that. Now for stash enhancement, as I mentioned, I got a couple more stitch markers from the Homespun House. You can see them. This one's just a cute little witch. Hello, there. And then obviously, you know me with the hexagons. It's a little honeycomb with a little bee charm hanging off it. So that's adorable. And then the Knit Picks Felice. This is for my husband's socks. Just a nice little gray and black with a couple of shades of blue in there. This is called Beyond the Wall. So obviously it's inspired by Game of Thrones or the Song of Ice and Fire series, which we are big fans of, especially him. It's like he's as obsessed with that as I am with Harry Potter, almost. So yeah, I basically feel like all socks should be themed after fantasy books at this point. Like, what are we doing ever knitting socks that aren't based on fantasy books. But yeah, I think it's really fun. It sort of incorporates these different wintry colors, and he's got in his mind like, oh, I want to have gray heels and cuffs for the White Walkers, and the black is like the black that the Night's Watch wears, and the white and the blue is like the snow, you know, and I think the gray could also sort of remind you of the Starks as well, because that's their color. So there's lots of symbolism behind the colors that you can imagine. And yeah, I asked him if he wanted black, white, or gray, heels, cuffs, and toes. Well, heels and toes. I'm gonna do stripy cuffs. And he said gray. So I think I'm gonna use, actually, I haven't held them next to each other before, so let's find out. I was thinking I would use some of the Dogwood Heather. I mean, that looks fine. It's not the same shade of gray at all, but I think that could work. I think black might look sharper. I might ask him if he's super attached to the idea of gray, or maybe I'll show him these together and then show him some black. We'll see. So that's stash enhancement. Last thing to talk about is just what I've been wearing lately. This is my in stitches segment, as the Knitmore girls say. I wore my Kodo on our cabin getaway. I also wore it to work on Monday morning. Everybody noticed and commented on it because they all know that I'm knitting crazy. And so that was really fun and exciting. I love it. And then I've been wearing hand knit socks a lot. I only have 2 pairs. Now I have 3 pairs. So are you so proud of me that I managed to not wear these for like several days so that I could show them to you fresh? That's for you guys. You've no idea. Like, I'm gonna put these on right now. Oh God, they're so pretty. I can't, like, oh, I love them. So that's what I've been wearing. I will update you soon on how the whole Ryan knitting thing goes. I don't know when exactly we're going to sit down to do it, but the yarn hasn't come yet. So we should have more stash enhancement soon. I have some Yarn Club yarn coming, lots of fun stuff to show you in that department, and lots more fun knitting on the horizon. So let me know if you've stuck around this long. Would you like a bit of a sort of blather section? Would you like to hear more about what's going on in my life at the end of the podcast? I'm not doing that now. I don't know that I'll always have time for it, but it's definitely something that I'm open to doing if you guys are interested, if any of you are gonna stick around and listen to it. So let me know that in the comments down below. That'd be great. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe again if you haven't yet, and I will see you later. Bye.